Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies, and today I am reviewing Season 5 of The Monk Show. And there are 16 episodes, and what happened was I started watching it, and I was just like binging it, because it's just so, this season in particular is... I'll be giving a review at the end, but it wasn't as outstanding as some of the previous seasons, but it's still creative, and they have good ideas, and there are a lot of funny moments, and so I just kept watching it, and then ended up, we had to do some other things for the channel, and then I came back and I watched it completely all over again. And so I really am familiar with them. And since they're 16, I'm just going to make it like, instead of a top 10 or, with the low and the high, all 16 and rank them like that. And since some of them, quite a few of them, are just like, they're just not outstanding. I'll just say that they're a little hard to rank them. I tried to pick out things about them that I really liked a lot or I really didn't like, and that kind of influenced my decision maybe to put them where they were in the 16, within the 16 episode count. So I just wanted to say, let's see. That's my review.
Oh, so that's what you have to say about the season is there. So what I think about season 5
specifically a lot of stuff, except just like
the theme song.
Oh yeah, Marcus, remind me about.
See, I knew it.
I do not like the theme song.
Yeah, what does it sound like?
I don't know what it sounds like.
Do an impression.
No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, do an impression.
Well, I don't want to do that.
Do an impression.
Nobody cares about.
Yeah, they do. No, you have to sing with words.
I don't know the words.
No, you have to do it like this.
Okay,
that's what it sounds like.
Well, anyway,
that's what I did in my review.
It was okay for the first season, but I wish they would have changed it, because I turn off, which is a really nice thing about watching all these episodes at a later date in a later year, is you can skip the intro.
Yeah.
I press skip the intro after on every single one, because I just don't want to listen to the song. And, I know this is it's Randy Newman. It's the same guy who did Woody and Toy Story. But the thing is, that's a movie, and you watch the movie and it's over, and then you don't ever see, and it's not like they've been putting them out really quickly, right after the other. They've been real judicious and waiting, and so it's not like you're going to hear that song. And the way they put it out there too, it wasn't exactly the same on future movies with him, about Woody. And I just but this thing, you watch week after, you got to think about this. You're watching week after week after week. It's the same old like it's just all over and over, and then I'm sick of it.
Yeah,
so I just wanted to say, I keep saying something. Marco says, well, "Why don't you say?"
Because
your review, and I forget about it
off camera,
because
you're talking about the season,
because
and then
I keep checking the skip the intro part.
Except for there was one time where I was in there, and all of a sudden you were like, "Oh no!" and then you look down and you realize that you didn't press it, and he was like, and then you're like, "No, press it," and you had to quickly get out of it because you were already had enough of it.
Well, the only time I would ever press it is if I had to go to another room and get something, so I needed the time instead of, because it goes right into the episode if you press it, and so if I needed some time, I so I could hurry
Well, if you
up
needed
and do
some time, why
something.
wouldn't you just press pause?
Because I just wanted it to go. So
Oh.
anyway,
That's not an answer.
okay, well, I guess I could go through. Let's see. There's one episode. Well, you know what? I'll just do this 16. We did talk. I will say this. We did talk about, and Mark was actually going to be doing a video coming up about cringeworthy episodes in TV that he's seen, and I've seen quite a few of them. If I hadn't watched the show, of course, I won't have seen the cringeworthy episode he's referring to. But for the most part, I've seen most of what he's talking about. But in this list of 16, now there's nothing. I would say this: there's nothing as cringeworthy and awful to watch as that dentist episode, which was in the last season, I believe.
Yeah, season 4.
He goes to the dentist.
Yeah.
And I'll just repeat myself again. The dentist doesn't even touch him. It's the fact that the way he responds to him, even coming towards his mouth, the movement, and the guy's not trying to torture him.
Later in the episode, he does.
Yeah, but
so
it's
that's coming.
But and you just the way he responds, and you know that he has so many phobias and fears, and you can imagine being him and just being terrified. And so, and it's more like a horror episode, but it's so cringeworthy, I can hardly stand watching it. I mean, I wouldn't watch it again just because it's so cringeworthy. Well, in this season, there are 4 episodes which had like a kind of a cringeworthy moment, and I guess from now on, I think I'm going to be looking for that.
Why?
I don't. Well, I'll be aware of it, and I probably mention it.
Well, okay, I could already think of probably another one I should have put on the cringeworthy list. Is that I think it's the next season or season 7 where Natalie, she forces Monk to give her daughter the sex talk because she's upset that her daughter is dating somebody who's like a year older than her. And he acts like the guy's like a pedophile because he's a year older than her. And it's like, ugh, this is so cringe because, that's what like mothers of girls act like. Like they act like that. And so that whole episode is definitely, I'll probably put that on the list.
Okay, well, I'll just say what the 16 are, and then if there's something interesting about the episode, Okay, well, there's 16, so I'm going to start with the least liked. And that would be Mr. Monk and the Leper. Now, the thing about that is they are talking about leper. And so the good thing, I guess, about the episode, I guess, is the doctor, he's British. But to me, the thing about it is I didn't like the bad guy. The bad guy was actually a girl, and it was all about marriage and money, and getting the money and not getting the money as usual, because even in real life, it's always a lot about money. And in the United States, it isn't realistic to me at all that there would be anybody with leprosy, and the whole story was just about the villain, and the villain wasn't even the villain per se, because he got killed. It just isn't realistic that there would be any leper.
It was another fake out.
I've been to a third world. They even refer to Tanzania as a fourth world country. There are lepers everywhere. They're and they've lost their arms or their hands or their feet. They really had it. And
you sound like you're jealous, Safi.
The only thing I did like was that they explained that it was not even leprosy anymore. They called it Hansen's disease. So that was the only good thing, because to me that was a good informative thing. but I didn't like it. I just didn't think it was realistic at all, and I didn't like the villain. She was hardly on there, and that was another thing I started to look for, especially in this season. I don't know why. I guess, when you watch them twice, you notice a lot more things, and or you can remember them. You know how my memory is; it's terrible, and the villain was hardly in it. I mean, she really wasn't in it that much at all. It's just at the end, and there's a hot air balloon involved, and she tries to shoot it down, and it's just, and the cops are coming, they're putting the cuffs on her, and here she is, she's still trying to shoot them, and it's just stupid, dumb. So that was my 16.
Well, you should explain, a trademark of the Monk series is that they're typically good villains. Or they're villains who are really, really evil, and they're, but even some of the better episodes.
There's murder. But you can't say that because the villain.
Well,
I think in every episode there's a murder involved, so you can't. I mean, I know what Marco is saying. He's saying that you can be sympathetic even if they murder somebody. You can kind of be sympathetic toward them because they're just not. They just don't have that negative vibe about them.
Well, no, Safi, I was saying that was like a part of why we're talking about how the villain in that episode is weak, is because the show typically has great villains. So episodes with bad villains, they stick out.
Okay.
And that would be a good determination to make, when you're ranking all the 100+ episodes.
There was one episode. There were actually two villains. There was somebody pulling the strings, and then the actual person carrying out the evil duty. I'll go through that, which episode that was. My next one is number 15, and this one is Mr. Monk Visits a Farm. Now, you know that he's phobic, and it's dirt, and so right away it's a problem. But the thing about this is Randy got himself into trouble, and this was like a self-punishment for him. He messed up, and he sent the go-ahead to these police to invade this home because he thought there were drug dealers in there, and it was an old couple, and it was a mistake because what happened was it was 606, and he thought it said 909. He had the piece of paper with the number upside down, and so he was just fed up, and he resigned.
It's a pretty bad mistake. I mean, they do that all the time nowadays, and
they do it.
And then, but they don't even just go in there; they kill all the people in there for no reason. So
in this one,
it's a pretty bad mistake to make.
In this season too, they have this happen twice.
Yeah.
But it's not his fault the second time it happens. Or that might have been, well, it doesn't matter. But the thing about this is it's Randy, and Randy's a very likable character, and sometimes he just doesn't think. But he is pretty smart, I think, and he likes the captain, he likes Monk, he likes Natalie. I mean, they all get along. They don't dislike him at all. They like him. He's a likable character. But the thing is, it just wasn't that good of an episode. Another thing about the episode was Tony Shalhoub's wife was in it, and she's been in a few others. I think she was in a total of 4 during the whole series, and she plays a sheriff. She's good. I mean,
I think it's 5.
I've seen her over the years.
It's 5 episodes.
It what?
I think it's 5 episodes.
Yeah. Well, and she didn't have that big of a part, but it was funny, the little exchange between the two, since you know that they're married in real life.
I didn't like it.
But it just isn't a very good episode, and both Marco and I are kind of lamenting the fact. Now, he's already seen the whole series. I haven't. Yeah. That's why I'm working my way through it. But he says there's never really a good episode for Randy all by himself, and that's a shame.
Yeah, this was the only episode where it's like a Randy solo episode, technically, and they still make him like really, really stupid. And I thought, just for this one episode, it would have been nice if you had made Randy the star of the show.
Yeah, and it's not that he's stupid. He just doesn't think
He
things
is.
all the way through. I don't think
He is. In this episode, he is. Like, they act like he's like Barney from the Andy Griffith Show,
Yeah,
where they have to like organize and contrive like him to win. Like he can't even do it himself.
Okay, my next one is Mr. Monk Makes a Friend. And
That low?
yeah,
Everyone loves that episode.
well, the thing about this is where the villain isn't so. Well, he is and he isn't. He's just not. He's more likable than anything, but he ends up he's not. But the whole thing, the whole story, is very weak.
Oh.
I mean, he's going. He hangs around Mr. Monk. He tries to make him think that he's his friend because he's got to check his mail, because he was with this woman. He killed her because she discovered, and I don't think he would be so horrible about it. He's smuggling artifacts within one artifact within a wine bottle, and it just she discovered it, and they had just gone to Greece, I think, and he said, don't open that wine bottle, and she said, why not? And then she opens it up and finds out that he's smuggling but she doesn't really know what he's doing. She doesn't understand it. But I mean, anybody who knows anything about that kind of stuff would know right away. And she's like confused, and he kills her just because she discovered that. I just don't think that would happen. Not with that person, because he was a very likable guy, and he also during the show they were suspicious of him because they couldn't believe he wanted to be Mr. Monk's friend. And the thing is, he wanted to go get his mail every day and be with him and go to his place, because the girl had sent him this picture of him and her, and then he would know that he killed her. And because she had promised that she would tell him, she would send him a card from that place a million years ago when she used to work for the police department.
But what did you like or dislike about it?
Well, I just didn't. I thought it was a weak story.
Why?
The only thing that during it, when I didn't know if he was really serious.
It's a dark story.
Yes, it is kind of dark because the guy's very likable. But he gets mad. They said, now why are you really being friends? The captain, Randy, and Natalie sit him down. They said, when Monk was doing something, said, why are you really trying to be friends with him? And he said, oh, I see. You don't think, and he said these realistic things. You don't think he could have a friend. You don't think anybody would be interested in him, and you're questioning that. And I don't know if he was serious or not.
He was.
And I thought that was really good. That was a good point. I mean, in real life, that somebody would, come back and show and, tell them off, and not just in realistic terms and in not very many words, and show them what they were. I mean, what kind of friend? He says, like, what kind of friends are you? What have you done with him lately?
Yeah.
And he was right.
I think it would have been a great episode for season 1, because I think by now they're more friends with him. Like, I think that, one of the unfortunate things about the show that we discussed off camera is that they don't really add any characters to the cast. No. Like, that they don't really add any friends for Monk, and so it is kind of an interesting thing, because they're really not friends with him. They just work with him.
And they respect his opinion on the case.
Yeah, but they're not really like friends with him. So it's too bad that like they just never added anyone to the cast list, because I think some of the characters, like this character, he could have been a good addition to the cast in some way. Like, maybe if he realized that Monk was a good person in prison or something, and then maybe they talked once in a while to consult on a case. Like, that could have been cool. But no, we can't have any character that comes back. They all have to be shooed away. And that's the type of thing they did in, like, old sitcom shows. And, like, it's shitty. Isn't that, Safi?
Yeah.
Why do they do that?
I don't know. Okay, well, my next two episodes are 13, that was 14, 13 and 12, and they're all about, which is interesting, the senses. And the first, and senses meaning sense of smell, seeing, hearing, feeling, that's what I mean by senses. And number 13 is Mr. Monk Can't See a Thing. And that is the
Weak
episode. It was just another weak episode, and it's a shame, but it's he loses his eyesight because the bad guy threw acid in his eyes. Well, it wasn't completely acid, it was not dishwashing, but some kind of cleaning fluid that had some kind of acid in it. And he was lucky that he regained his eyesight, but he couldn't see, and he was with somebody who got murdered, and it was a firefighter. And the whole story, it just was another thing where I don't think it would ever happen. But that's the thing about this show, is they're very creative in turning everyday situations, everyday events that could happen, places, things, objects, kinds of people, what they do. They turn them into something that could, into a story. So I do appreciate the effort. But this is the episode where they have two villains, and that is they have a guy, and he's hardly on it at all. He really comes on like at the end pretty much, and so does the actual killer. But he's doing this other person's bidding, and so it's a conspiracy. And so, but both of them, they're hardly even on it at all. They come in at the end, and but I put it at 13. And the next one is Mr. Monk and the Garbage Strike, and that was another sensory.
Wow.
That was another sensory. And the thing about this one is
people
the
say
villain is in it hardly. I mean, he's in it for 2 seconds.
Yeah, but people say that episode is one of the best of the series.
Oh, really?
Which is weird.
Well, it's like I said, you have to look at if you look at the season overall, there's not really a lot of outstanding material. It's just kind of okay. But the thing about this one is, I mean, it really looked a disaster. They made it to where there was a garbage strike in San Francisco. San Francisco is a humongous city. If you've ever been there, and if you can imagine garbage everywhere piled up in the streets like it's been a war zone, and that that had to have been a set and a street on a set, and they still had to load it up with garbage. And
it was fake garbage.
Well, I don't care if it's fake; you still have to clean it up.
But it's not like stinky garbage. It's like you could see there were like streamers and cut up pieces of paper and stuff. Like, it wasn't like diapers or anything.
No, but
like it would really be in real life.
The thing about it is the person who's killed was the head of the union or department of sanitation. And so without him, they were negotiating. This was, this can happen anywhere, labor negotiation for higher wages and other things. And he gets murdered. And so because he gets murdered, then they're not negotiating. So the strike continues, and Monk can't stand dirt, and it stinks. Can you imagine everybody putting their garbage out there and how much it would smell, And
the villain in the episode,
he's hardly on it at all.
He's so like minimal, and really one of the biggest problems with this episode is there's another guy in the episode, and you think that he's the villain the whole episode, but he was on there the whole episode. It would have been so much better if he was the villain, because he was there.
Impossible.
Why?
Because he was the mayor.
Safi, mayors are bad.
No, in San Francisco.
Especially in San Francisco.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to just keep going on. So that I thought that was interesting that these two were both about senses. Well, I haven't explained about. The thing is, he was so, Monk is so upset about dirt and smells and all that he can't figure out the case. He comes up with these, ideas, but they're not completely thought out because he can't think, he can't sleep. And so what happens is, this was interesting too. The captain takes him to this place where they manufacture computer, probably motherboards, and it has to be a clean, sterile room with no evidence of dust anywhere. And you wear a white suit, and there's nothing anywhere. There's no pictures or anything on the wall. It's like a white room, and he takes him in there, and then he starts clearing his head, and there's no smell and no visual pieces of garbage anywhere, and
Sharona's not there.
Yeah. And he comes up with the solution to the case. I mean, and it took him 2 seconds because his head cleared out. He just couldn't think. So that was essential for the census.
That was sensual.
Yeah.
Sensual.
Okay. My next one is number, let's see, 11. And this is Mr. Monk and the actor.
Oh.
And this was,
You really rated that basketball
one of the
too
cringeworthiness.
Why?
It's cringeworthy in two ways. And what happens is, oh God, I can't even think of this name. This is actually a story about an actor playing an actor.
Ooh, Ben Kingsley.
No, Marco, don't do that.
Ooh, that one guy. Stanley Tucci.
Yeah, Stanley Tucci.
He's playing Monk in a movie based off of an episode from last season.
About the astronaut.
Yeah, the one everyone says is the best episode of the series. And it's cringeworthy because the whole episode he is so annoying because he really wants to become Monk, and
he's like a method actor. Isn't that what they call a method actor?
Yeah.
When he gets into his work.
But it's funny. It's funny enough for a couple of times to watch it.
Yeah, well, at the beginning it's cringeworthy because Mr. Monk is showing off, and he just does all this stuff, and I just wanted to shut it off because it was so cringeworthy.
Yeah, it was cringeworthy.
And
that
then
part.
At the end, because the guy's had some kind of mental problems, and he has kind of like a breakdown because he becomes Monk.
He's basically almost as bad as Ezra Miller.
Yeah, okay. And
Safi doesn't know who that is.
yeah, I've heard that. I had a mother in English, so as an English teacher, so he believes that the killer is even hardly relevant in the show.
Yeah.
I mean, he did kill somebody. He killed 2 people.
But to be fair, I think the first woman kind of deserved it. I mean, she was blackmailing people, so it was just inevitable that something bad was going to happen, Safi.
Well, anyway, and what happens is this actor who's become Monk, so it's like Monk Point 2, and he thinks that the bad guy who is the killer in the episode of 2 people, not killing Trudy. He's not killed Trudy. He didn't even know who she is. But he somehow the actor thinks that this is the guy who killed Trudy too, and they have to. Monk has to talk him down, but it's the whole thing where he's crying and talking about Trudy, acting like that was his wife. It was just cringeworthy.
I thought it was funny.
It was weird. So, anyway, it was an unusual episode. And Stanley Tucci did a primo job of being Monk.
He did too good. Too good.
Yeah, and it was cringeworthy. Okay, next one is number 10. Now, these are my top 10, which is kind of weird when you see the episodes.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Mr. Monk gets a new shrink. And this is where the villain has an office right next to the psychiatrist, but there's a murder that takes place in the psychiatrist's office. Now, psychiatrists, they can become in danger. And even I grew up like I had a friend in my class who was in the 6th grade. Her father was a psychiatrist, and they were always having to look over their shoulder. They were always worried about getting attacked or whatever by one of his clients, one of his patients. And so this is a real thing that could happen. But so that the murder takes place in Monk's psychiatrist's office, and so the psychiatrist gets all bent out of shape, and he thinks he should resign because it's all his fault, that he's responsible because he didn't recognize that he had a patient who was so dangerous he would commit a murder. And the murder was not of another patient or a nurse or anything. It was of a cleaning lady. And so anyway, it is pretty good. I liked it. I put it at number 10 though, because it's not too bad. It's just the psychiatrist. You kind of find out too. There's 2 episodes. This is one of them, where 2 of the main characters don't have good relationships with the children, and this is one of them. And there was this big exchange between the I don't know what he was, a college age kid of the
he's in high school.
High school, okay,
or middle
high
school.
school.
Like,
and they don't.
It's hard to tell because the actor
saying,
keeps changing.
Oh, well, he was saying terrible things to his father, and Monk could hear it, and it was just. I thought that was interesting. And there's another episode where it's a completely different character, and they have a terrible relationship with their high school child too. So that's interesting to me. They would have that. Okay, number 9 is Mr. Monk meets his dad. And this is a Christmas episode, which I always like the fact, and I've said this before, that a show will make the effort to make a holiday episode, whether it be Halloween or Christmas, or either one of those 2, or any other holiday, but mainly those 2, of course, because those are my favorite ones. And it was an interesting episode because this guy comes in, and the only reason why Monk meets up with him is because he got some kind of traffic ticket, and he wanted Monk to get him out of it. And it turns out they spend the whole episode together. But the thing I didn't like about it was that they have the brother, and Marco said that after these 2 times that he's shown up on the show, that they never show him again.
Yeah, like the Ambrose, he's not in the show anymore, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, I think maybe I don't think he's even in the 200th case episode. So like, it's really stupid. This episode is like so monumental, where about this missing father. And then he never comes.
Learns a lot. That Monk learns a lot about what happened to him, why he left, and that he found another family. He did the same thing to them, and
it was a problem because he didn't feel like he was actually Monk's father at all. So
no. But the thing is, Ambrose wanted to see this guy. And he has some hang-ups, mental hang-ups about him too, that Monk had, and where they almost felt responsible. Each one of them felt responsible for him leaving. They thought it was their fault, and they both said it. And I thought it would have been nice if he would have been in it, even if he wasn't in a long time, that he would actually get to see him. But they didn't have that. And I thought that was a major flaw.
Major flaw in the series.
Yeah.
Not just the episode.
Right. But actually, I thought the episode, it was a good mystery. And next one is number 8. And this is Mr. Monk Goes to a Rock Concert. And Marco has repeatedly told me that this is like other fans, like one of their least favorite episode, and
Yeah, I don't know why, because I think it's like it's good, but
I think it is a really good mystery, and it's very, and to me, it's another thing where I don't know if it's believable that the person, the bad guy, does all the things that he does to make it look like this other person did it, and it was this person who had a song stolen by this main rock star. He hadn't made any hits for years, and this girl who was really good friends with he was a roadie, which means somebody who sets up all the equipment for the concert, and he was a music writer. He's a songwriter. He wrote the music and the words, and his friend hired Monk in a way because she'd read about him online or something, and she hired him to look into it. But I thought it was interesting. That another interesting thing. This was in the other episode where the main character, which was the captain, went out there to look for his son. He'd skipped school, and remember, he and his wife got a divorce. And so there were some problems with the relationship between him and his son, because his son thought he was ignoring his family, or he just was being a bad father and a bad husband, or just, he just had a terribly negative attitude. And they end up working together, even minimally, and he helps him. If he hadn't helped him with the case at the very end, his son, that the bad guy would not have had sufficient evidence.
It's stupid because it all revolves around a stupid fucking ball.
Well,
I mean, they keep kind of fucking passing the ball around the crowd, and it's like, this is fucking stupid.
Yeah, well, that's
I just remembered that. Oh, Safi, shame on you.
So, don't ask me. But
yeah, I won't.
But this is number 8. So, number 7 is Mr. Monk at Your Service.
Oh.
And it's number 7.
Yeah.
And it's
number
a very
1?
good episode. This was the actor was the guy who's played in The Hobbit, and he's Patty Duke's son, and so he's grown up with acting parents, and he knows everything about being an actor. He's had a lot of experience, so this is almost like a cakewalk part to him. He could actually almost phone it in, and he played the spoiled boy who killed his mother, and set it up, and his father had a heart attack, and there was something about whoever died at a certain time, they had to die, but he would get the money, and if the other one died before, then the other kids got the money, which I thought was a little bit weird and confusing. But this is where Monk, he gets upset because there's a hiring freeze. I've been through this before, and they're not going to hire anybody new at the police department, so he's really despondent. He hasn't got any cases in weeks to work on, and he fears that by the time that they decide not to have a hiring freeze anymore, he'll be too old to be a cop, to be reinstated to be a cop. So he decides he's going to be this butler at this house of this guy, and this guy's Natalie's parents' neighbor, so they're all rich, and they live in these mansions. And at first it was going to be this undercover thing where Monk was going to be there and find out the spot, because Natalie suspected the boy, which he's not a young boy, is an older boy, of killing his parents. But Monk decided he really liked being a butler. He decided he was going to change his career. He's going to be a butler. And then that all changes. But this is where the bad guy's around the whole episode.
Yeah.
And
he knew Natalie as well as a teenager,
right.
So
Natalie
makes it extra interesting.
She didn't trust him. Yeah, she knew him. She had known him all her life. And they were neighbors. So that was a lot more of a personal case, since Natalie knew the guy. And the next one is Mr. Monk gets a new shrink. Did we already do that?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Uh-oh, it is.
Safi! What's the deal?
I don't know.
Oh, you better look up the episodes, because
I can't do it now. I'll just go through the rest.
What?
The next one is Mr. Monk's private eye.
It's so high it makes me sick.
And this is what I would call an episode with many layers.
Really?
Because what happens is Natalie wants him to be, because he's just not getting a lot of cases. And, she gets paid, and her payment depends on the money they get from the police department for the consulting. He hasn't had many cases from the police department. So she thinks he ought to go into business. She thinks about her grandpa who made toothpaste and how he started like that from nothing, and then it grew into a huge, monumental toothpaste empire.
And I would agree, and I think that it's really unfortunate that they didn't do more of this storyline, because, after this, they never really do this ever again. And I kind of felt like, like, Monk would be better as a private eye than he would be as a police officer.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's just, I think it's just because that's what he was used to.
Yeah.
And he didn't like change. And that's what, but he did get a case, and the case was like a fender bender. At least that's what they thought it was. And it explodes into this huge murder. And it's, but there's layers to get there. And it's really good with that. And the captain gets a girlfriend out of it, but I remember her from back then. She was in every single series, playing something, and
she could be your girlfriend too, Safi.
I've seen her over. I saw her over and over and over and over again. And I'm like, her again?
And you like seeing her so much, you put her in 6th place.
Well, I'm not. So my next one is number 4, and that's Mr. Monk and the Big Game. And this was a reason why I picked this up higher, and it's really not that great of a case. But
no, it's an awful episode.
The thing about the case was that it made a focus, but is very indirect, very sneaky, and understated about DNA, forensic DNA research. And that is that, and what happens is the daughter's coach gets murdered, and that's what they're looking for, the killer. But she's also doing this school project. She comes into the captain's office and has an interview with him, and because she's doing a report on DNA, and he brings it up, the fact that she wanted to know if cases were solved with DNA evidence. Yes, they are, but you have to have the DNA on a database to match it up with. If there's no DNA on a database, and you've got DNA in a crime scene that you can't identify, then it's not going to get, the mystery isn't going to get solved with DNA technology, because there's nothing to match it against. But if you have DNA from a relative, their DNA is so closely compatible, you can actually get the killer or whatever. And I've seen this for genealogy, this DNA sharing of from relatives, and they actually had, there was another local case here where they had the same kind of thing, but with the DNA evidence. But I've seen some episodes lately where these African American actors and actresses and even other people were, they found out about a relative due to looking at the DNA of different families, and they finding ones that were closely resembling the DNA of this person in question, and they found out they found out what they were looking for. It was like a huge mystery, but that's what they looked at, and this case focused on that, and ended up to be the coach's, which it was a basketball coach of the girl, and it was her brother. But anyway, who was the killer? But it wasn't even a case they were working on. It was the case what they were working on was the coach who got killed. His brother killed his own sister. So anyway, that's why I put it so high. But it's not that great of a story. The girls hire Mr. Monk to find the killer. They're going to pay him $47, but he doesn't take it, of course. And then he and Natalie, because they have a final game, she plays a coach to the team, and he helps her, and he's wearing a whistle, and it's goofy. It's just that
yeah,
part
Safi, like, this episode is like D tier. D or C tier.
Okay, my next one is Mr. Monk and the Class Reunion.
Oh.
And I have it at number 3.
Well, look, I just don't want to even think about what number 1 could be.
Huh.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And this is another thing where the villain is, you don't know who he is until the very end, and they don't show him that much. It kind of like pops up like a jack-in-the-box
What?
here and there.
He's there the whole episode. You hear his voice in the opening. And
you
so
hear his voice, just his voice. You never see him.
the voice gave it away. I knew that it was him.
Oh, you did?
It's
I did.
because of the voice.
I didn't, but I don't know what else to say about it. It was. I'm just trying to think.
It's a shitty review.
Well, I think I've been doing pretty well. I don't know what you're talking about, but
Well, it's like with this episode, you really have done a piss poor job because, like, you guys don't even realize she watched this episode like once, and she only watched like half of it. And then for the rewatch, she skipped over it completely, and so she had to watch it this morning. And so she was ready to just totally write off this episode because it had to do with class reunions. And it reminded her she has a class reunion coming up that she's going to.
No, I'm not.
She's
not
upset
going.
about having to go to it and
I'm not going.
having to videotape all of her friends and
I'm not
make
doing
a funny
any
video.
of that.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You want to bet?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, that's gonna. Yeah.
No, Marco.
Yeah.
No.
You gotta take videos of them.
No.
Find out which ones died.
I know which ones died already.
Who?
Nobody you would know. I didn't. Marco, this was Lexington, Missouri. You're talking about somebody in St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis is a humongous city with suburbs.
No,
this
I was
is a
talking
little
about
town outside of Kansas City.
Yeah, but what about that guy who watched Clockwork Orange?
That guy went to Wellington High School.
Oh,
he didn't go to my high school.
Oh.
Oh, God.
So you're like shopping around at other high schools.
No,
Like going to the playground and watching the boys.
Okay, that's enough. That doesn't help. He was in my mom's English class.
Ugh, that's even worse.
So just be quiet, would ya?
Gross. Ew. What's your next one?
Okay, I don't know. I just don't know what to say about it. It was interesting. They had a name for him because he kept cleaning out the refrigerator, freezer, because it kept filling up with ice, and it was a disaster. He said, "Oh, here it is," and it was open, or he opened it up, and it was you could never, it wouldn't function right. The same refrigerator was there. I can't remember what reunion it was, either 25th reunion, and he and Trudy had met there.
Oh, we did talk about how they introduced another perfect love interest, and then this is her only episode.
Well, I know, this is the obvious thing. This is an episode where he saved a person's life. He figured out who the killer was and what was going on, which was another very complicated mystery, and he figured it out, and the guy was getting ready to kill her, and he had her hanging over the edge of a building, and she was about ready to fall of their hotel room, and they saved her. The captain was there, the Aunt Randy, Natalie, and him, and they all ran and saved her life.
Yeah,
so this was the only episode where there was actually something happening where they had to save somebody's life.
Yeah, Monk saves her, and it's like, oh, do they get together? No. Writers can't handle it.
Okay, my number 2 and my number 1, I don't know what this missing episode is. I'll have to come back. Which is really weird. They both have cringeworthy parts in it. But there was something really special about the episodes. In fact, the number 1 episode, I hate the first part because it's cringeworthy. And I'll tell you why when I get to it. But the last half of it, I could probably watch it another 20 times. It's really good, and I love it. But my number 2 is Mr. Monk is on the Air. And this stars Steven Weber. And he's the bad guy. And he is a prominent guy throughout the episode. He's really good. He plays the biggest jerk on the planet. And there's this one part where Mr. Monk gets on Air 2, and and he's trying to tell these jokes because he's trying to compete with the guy, because the guy was really mean and horrible to him, and he thought he could compete with him and put him down, but he had these crappy jokes he got from his neighbor. They weren't that funny, and I think because they were too old-fashioned or something. And so anyway, somebody says something about his wife, Trudy, and he says she died from a car bomb, and then Steven Weber begins to say terrible things about, and not funny.
And really, they were pretty funny.
No,
and
they were. But he got so angry that he jumped over the desk, and Mr. Monk flew at the guy, and they had to take him out and kick him out of the whole place.
It's funny because Steven Weber had the last laugh in the series, because after you find out what Trudy was like in the series finale, it's like, ew. Like, it's sad that, like, Monk defended her so much throughout the series based on what she turned out to be like.
Oh, Marco.
What?
Marco's talking about The Office. The same actress was in The Office.
No, I'm not.
And she was horrible.
Safi, you'll see in the series finale.
Oh, the series finale. No, I haven't seen the series finale. I'm not on that yet. But
he had the last laugh in regards to that.
Anyway, there's a Jack Russell Terrier in this show, and the neighbor to the radio guy, to Steven Weber, he owns a Jack Russell Terrier. That's the same dog they used in the Wishbone series. They're very trainable. They're extremely smart. And if you've seen any of those episodes, which I guess if you have to have kids or been a kid yourself to have seen those, you saw that they got him to do everything, and it was not just one dog. I think it was like 2 or 3 maybe.
Everyone's been a kid.
Jack Russell. Well, I mean, to see this show though, and Ben, it was on at the main time where you would be watching TV at home after school.
Oh.
And anyway, the bad guy had trained this Jack Russell Terrier, and they went through the whole thing. They showed the dog do the whole process, and he taught him a command, and he said the command over the radio. The dog heard the command. He had been taught, and he goes into the house in this little tiny area that only a dog his size could get through. He runs up to the upstairs. He runs into the bedroom, and he turns on the gas with his nose. He pushes the lever. And then he leaves the room, and he pushes on the door, and the door shuts. And the girl his wife dies of asphyxiation. And you can't pin it on the guy in the beginning of the episode, even though Monk knows it's him, because he was at the radio station. Well, how could he have? He couldn't fit through this hole, and neither could anybody else at his radio station. They have some short person there, and he couldn't fit into it. They were thinking that maybe it was him. And so anyway, Monk figured out it was the dog. and they showed him going through the whole process. I thought that was interesting. I really liked that, and it made me think of Wishbone. And anyway, but it was cringeworthy. The Steven Weber played the biggest jerk on the planet, and it drove me crazy. I couldn't stand it. I could hardly watch that part where he said.
But he's funny.
Terrible things. He played.
He's so good.
Yeah, he played a perfect bad guy. He did a really good job. Okay, my last one, which is number 1, it's Mr. Monk and the really, really dead guy.
Oh, I know which episode's missing.
What?
The hospital.
Oh, God.
Finale.
Oh.
Safi.
Okay.
Yeah. Boom.
Well, I would have that hospital finale probably at... Jeez, I can't believe I did that. Well, I'll talk about that after this number 1 thing. This was another cringeworthy at the beginning. What happens is they have this killing of a street musician, and so this bad guy calls in to the cops, and I think he calls into the newspaper, anywhere he can, and says he's the 6-way killer. He killed the street musician. He shot him, he poisoned him, he did like 6 different things, and they're like, why did he do that? And he kept doing this random, in 36 hours I'm going to get another victim. Well, what happened was there was really another victim, and they didn't really talk about it at all, and not much. And it was a woman, and the woman had gone to dinner with a doctor, and somehow they didn't get along, and something that they ate was so significant that if they looked at their stomach contents within the 36 hours, they would know what the restaurant is. And we go back to the bad part of the episode, the cringeworthy, and it's this FBI guy. He's called in because they think it's a serial killer because of all these telephone calls he made to the police, etc. And he's a jerk, a total jerk to Monk. They have all these electronic devices and all this modern technology, and Monk just isn't used to he doesn't even use a computer. And so he makes fun of him, he's mean to him, he actually tells him to go home, that he's not wanted, and then, he's a horrible person. And so anyway, by the end, Mr. Monk, without a computer and all his electronic devices, he solves the case. And he figures out they reached the woman in time. She's in there in the morgue, but they've been asked to work on the street killer murder. He's the priority. And they've ignored the woman, and if it goes past 36 hours, they're not going to know what she ate, because it gets messed up in her stomach. It's acid. You have stomach acid. It will melt it all, and they wouldn't know what killed her. They managed to get to her and look at the stomach contents within the 36 due to Monk figuring out the case. And it was so funny when they're at this outdoor thing, and Randy's playing a street musician, and they're trying to lure the bad guy, and it's just a setup because there's no bad guys going to come, and they're just making a fool out of the police, and the captain tries to tell him he thinks it's a waste of time. And then they're waiting for this guy to show up, and somebody shows up to play with Randy. He has a harmonica, and they tackle him. They think he's the killer because he fits this profile they got from the computer. And then they take down the guy, and Randy gets knocked down. And anyway, the captain gets a call, and he says it's Monk. He's figured out the case, or he solved the case. And then they go there, they go through it all. It was great to have that guy just put down. And I loved it. I could watch it a million times. So that was my favorite episode. But what was funny about these last 2 episodes, no matter what about this hospital episode, was the fact that they had a big piece of cringeworthy in it. But I still managed to like them because of the other the other parts of them that were just so outstanding. Those were outstanding. The way he got those people, they had all that equipment. It was expensive. They showed it off all the time and said all these statistics, and they'd look at their equipment, and they just thought and it cost thousands of dollars of taxpayer money. And what happened was, in the end, it's Monk, and he's really smart, and he figures it out without all that equipment. So that was really great. Now, this hospital episode, I probably would have been a good place to put it, number 6. And
Really?
I apologize. It made me, the thing about this episode, it was pretty good. It wasn't bad at all. I mean, I had it at number 6. But he had nosebleed, and he'd come to the emergency room, and he was by himself because Natalie had a date. And the whole episode, I'd say 95% of it, he had his head up in the air with Kleenex on his nose. And it hurt my neck to watch it because it was like, I don't know how he did it. I really don't, because like he was trying to read signs, and he had to be turned around his whole body, be a contortionist. And it was kind of like, I'm thinking my neck hurts just watching this. And then the bad guy, which is a doctor, doesn't want to be discovered because he really thinks he's God, although he's killed somebody now. And he's going to kill Monk. He's going to try to kill him. Natalie saves his life. And in the end, but he gets a pole thing, and it had, I think it's a pole that you put the IVs on. And like they have, it's like a Coke rack, only it's for IVs. And he hits Mr. Monk with it several times, and I gave him a concussion. It really hurt him. It was terrible. And puts him in, so he has to get admitted in the hospital. They try to say that he fell down the stairs, but it was this bad doctor. But I just couldn't believe, I thought that was awful. And it's a pretty good mystery. That's one thing. And that's why it's number 6. It's not way up in the latter part of 16.
There is one thing that's stupid, and that's that Monk has a bloody nose, and they act like the normal way that you treat a bloody nose is that you burn the inside of your nose or something,
and that was
to cauterize it. And I thought, I've never heard of that before until Monk.
I haven't either. I used to get nosebleeds when I was a kid. Never heard about cauterizing anything.
I thought, like, no wonder he didn't want to go to the hospital. Like,
yeah.
That was weird.
So my food score because we are a review channel that reviews things like seasons of shows and movies. We review not individual episodes, but seasons and movies in terms of food. And I just put it's the pizza in this area. And we got the benefit of having 2 different pizzas last night because my husband decided to get flying pizza, and we got Domino's pizza, which we get every time we go get pizza. That's what we get. Marco and I like it.
Really?
He doesn't like it. And it's okay, and it's just okay. It's, it's passable. The flying pizza was horrible. I'm sorry.
It was okay.
And it was like, because he ordered it that way, he put tons of green pepper, and I just don't want a green pepper pizza. Part of the pizza I like, Marco actually gets pepperoni, and on the other half, and he has hot sauce put on it now, I guess. And then I have black olive and mushroom, and it's good enough for me. It tastes really good. I mean, that was enough for me. I didn't need any other pizza, but we got the benefit of having both. And he had some of the other, and so did I. And then I had the rest of mine today for lunch. Sorry, excuse me. And that's just what this season was. It was just adequate. So the episodes were adequate. There wasn't anything outstandingly bad. And I think I gave one episode a C, but everything else was like a B minus. And as far as outstanding, which would be an A, there was those 2 episodes I said, but they weren't all outstanding. They had cringeworthy moments, which is kind of amazing that I would put them up so high when they had cringeworthy moments. But the part of the episodes, there was a big part of it, or even a smaller part, that made it outstanding. And the dog training, which they showed how you train a dog with the command, and they showed the dog do everything that the guy taught him, which he didn't teach him, the trainer taught him, of course. And then the FBI one, where the technology, you have all this expensive thousands of dollars with technology, and who solves the case? Somebody who looks at detail and is really smart and doesn't need the technology. Not that technology can't help, because especially like with the DNA thing, they talk about that could have solved the case, but they didn't have the record of the guy's DNA. They would have just had the sister, and that's why he killed her, which doesn't make sense, because they would they'd have her DNA. I don't see, that's the thing, that's kind of a flaw. But anyway, but that's what this season was. Pizza. I don't know. Marco says they were finding their footing. I don't get that, but It seems like season 5, he thought that even with other shows, season 5 seems to be a problem, and it's where they get kind of lost, and they don't know where they're going, and they can't remember what they've done.
They're finding their footing because they can't decide what Natalie is going to be. In season 6, it felt like a lead up to her being his girlfriend until the very end, when they're just like, no, we're not going to do that for some reason. But no, they should have been together.
But I mean, the way they have them now, they're really good friends.
But it feels like they can't get into a groove of having a lot of good episodes at once, like with other seasons of shows, or just even like the first couple of seasons of Monk. Like, it felt like when Sharona left, she really like put a big gaping hole in the show.
Well, it was a jolt. It was like they fell off a horse and they couldn't get back up on it.
Just like you.
So I'm sorry I missed that one. I don't know what happened, because like I said, I watched each episode twice. And I'll probably watch that one where he foils the FBI guys, because he was really mean to him. He was horrible to him, and degrading him, and just treating him like he was a dummy and a piece of crap. And I just, even though it was all acting and everything, I thought it was awful. And to give him comeuppance like that, that was really nice.
So
anyway. Be looking for Marco's most cringeworthy TV episodes in TV history that he's seen.
And Your Honor.
And he has plenty of them. And he's also reviewing the next episode of Your Honor, which is coming to an end pretty soon. How many more episodes, Marco?
4.
4 more
3
episodes.
or 4.
3 or 4. So, bye, everybody.
Bye.